This is VolcaKnowledge, the podcast where we explore how volcanoes interact across nature, culture, and society. I'm your host, volcanologist Sam Mitchell, and every episode I'll be joined by a new guest to get their unique perspective on the world of volcanoes and geology through the eyes of art, history, media, education, industry, and so much more. If you're watching, thanks for watching. If you're listening, thanks for listening. Remember, you can catch all of our episodes on many streaming platforms. Let's go and meet our guest. Enjoy the episode. Not all of us live close to active volcanoes or volcanic rocks, but sometimes there are more ancient, much older volcanic rocks where we can get a window into the geologic past. One of those places where we can go is Scotland, and there's a whole array of things you can see in this place in the world. And so I'm very excited today to be joined by Scottish geologist, or as known in real life, Luisa Hendry, who is a geoscience communicator and content creator. Hi Luisa, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. How are you?
Good. Really excited to chat on this episode of VolcaKnowledge today. We're going to cover a whole range of things across volcanic rocks, but more importantly, volcanic rocks and just rocks in general in the wonderful country of Scotland. I visited Scotland many holidays growing up as a child and just fell in love with the landscape. And so one thing that would be great to hear, well, first of all from you, is a quick, do you have a favourite volcano or volcanic spot?
Oh my goodness. But it's in Iceland, it's not in Scotland. Probably
That's
the
okay.
most recent, not the most recent eruption, but the July 2023 eruption that I went to go see, that's probably my favourite volcanic spot in that whole area. Obviously, you'll know yourself, there's a lot of volcanism going on there, like the divergent plate boundary, and oh my goodness, it just fascinates me to see that in real life and see the lava like at the surface and be like, wow,
it's
this
real.
happened in Scotland 60 million years ago.
Yep.
So yeah, Iceland for sure.
Iceland. And then what about somewhere you've always wanted to visit? Volcanic.
This is a hard one. But probably one of like the more explosive volcanoes. Although I wouldn't like to be there like when it actually erupts. But maybe like Mount Etna or Mount Vesuvius. I have a piece of rock from Mount Vesuvius that my sister brought back with her from when she went to Italy a few years ago. So I mean, I do have that little treasure, but it'd be nice to just go see it and stand on it and be like, wow, I'm on Mount Vesuvius. This is like the same kind of volcano that erupted in Glencoe in Scotland, you know.
Yeah.
Probably that. Place,
so that's a really nice point to kind of kickstart this, is drawing these parallels between modern volcanoes we have around the world from in Iceland and in Italy, and to comparing to somewhere like Glencoe in Scotland. So what would be really nice to hear now is kind of your background and spark into geology. So whereabouts you grew up? Were you surrounded by cityscape or by landscape and rockscape? So just a bit of your background and how you got into this world.
Yeah, of course. So I grew up down by the beach, so I was quite lucky. I got to go down to the beach every now and then and collect rocks. But I didn't actually know you could go study a degree in geology till I was in my 5th year at school, because it was kind of like a forgotten subject. And we didn't really know about it in school. There was geography, of course, which had the physical aspect of how landscapes form and how waterfalls and that form. But I never really knew that you could go and study and learn about how volcanoes form, or learn about things like how things have came to the way that they look and stuff, especially in Scotland. But yeah, back being a kid, I liked going down the beach, collecting the rocks, used to take them home, used to smash them open, trying to find, crystals and stuff. I used to leave them in my pockets, and my mum wouldn't check my pockets, and then it would break the washing machine. And then I used to really like the really bad geology movies from the 90s. I'm a 90s kid, so the ones like Volcano with Tommy Lee Jones and that in it, where the volcano erupts and where does it, San Francisco or something stupid?
Yeah, LA, I think.
And you're like, what? No! Or like the other one, like Dante's Peak, is it called? And then like the Armageddon, even though that's more about a comet, but there was a geologist in that. So
yeah,
I
so
always
disaster
kind of had
movies.
that interest, but I kind of left it, like it was left behind. And as I was at school, there was a lot of pressure put on you at school to try and figure out what you wanted to do. And I wanted to be like a fashion designer, because they were like, what are you good at? I was like, oh, art and stuff. I was good at geography. That was my top subject, but I never ever thought you could do anything with geography until I was in my 5th year at school. And I went to a university open day at the University of Glasgow, and I seen this stall and it had rocks and that on it and pictures of volcanoes in the background, and I was just like,
I can do this.
Can I go study this? And they were like, yeah, you can come study rocks and learn about how rocks form. And I'm like, what can you do with that? I'd honestly had no idea. And I think it's just because there's not a lot of stuff out there, or back then there wasn't as much stuff out there telling you what you could go into and do with a degree like that. So that's kind of how I got into it. And then I went to the University of Glasgow, but I couldn't get in straight away because I didn't have the hires. So I had to go to college for a year first, do a HNC. Then went to the University of Glasgow, got a degree in earth science, geology, graduated in 2015, and my first job was my career's been primarily in engineering geology. I worked in engineering geology for the last 9 years, which involved basically drilling boreholes across the country, like for big roads, railway, bridge, infrastructure projects before they build roads, railway, bridges. You need to do a ground investigation. It's a legalisation that's out there that you have to do. You have to find out information about what's under your feet to know then how to design these things and to know how to, build them in that. So I worked in that sector for a while, like kind of geotechnical side of things or engineering geology, whatever you want to call it. They all tie in with each other and they're all quite similar. So I spent my junior years doing that, like in the Scottish Highlands, where I got to see cores. They would bring up cores of some of the most beautiful rocks I've ever seen, like metamorphic rocks and igneous rocks, and I was like, oh my god, like this is amazing, because the Scottish Highlands is mainly made up of that stuff. But then when you went down towards the Midland Valley, or sometimes I'd end up in England, and I have seen and I have came across Mersey and Mudstone, even though I'm not as familiar with English geology.
Mudstone, the Scottish rocks
I'm
are
just
better.
like, no, but I loved it. Like, I did love my career, like when I was a junior engineer, and I thought my career was always going to be in that until I started, obviously, doing what I'm doing now. Like
so let's wonderfully segue into that. So what happened?
I basically, a few years ago, I actually thought about doing it when I was younger, but I just never had the time to do it because I worked away quite a lot. But I felt like there wasn't enough out there. Like, the TV was lacking stuff to do with geology. Like, there wasn't enough out on social media that spoke about geology, and I noticed there was a decline in the number of people that were coming into the industry, but also the number of people that were going to university to study geology nowadays. Well, that was probably even 5 years ago I noticed that, but I never ever had the time to actually get into it and start making the content. It was just always a dream in the back of my head. Same with the tours as well. I always kind of said to myself, what's my wee dream job? Oh, I'd love to just take people around the Scottish Highlands and teach them about the landscapes and how things form and why things are the way they are and how these rocks form, and educate people on it. But I never had the time to do it because I worked away. And I started in a new job in 2023. No, I started it in 2022, right, in January. But I didn't start the content until 2023. And it was in March 2023. I was in the Northwest Highlands with my mum. I think I was actually, I don't know if it's on this map. No, it won't be. It's further north. I was at no, it might have been. I was at a random cutting. I stopped the van and I was like, Mum, I need to go see these rocks. And she's like, right, okay. And this was probably one of my first viral videos of me just basically talking about, because it was just a selfie one. And I was just talking about how the worst thing about being a geologist is when you see a pretty rock face and you start, running towards it. And I started running towards this rock face and then explained what the rock face was. It was green schist, right? So I went into details about that. And then I basically, that whole trip, I then got my mum to start recording me, talk about different locations along the Northwest Highlands of Scotland. There's a geopark up there, right, and it's got some of the most ancient rocks in the UK. So it was nice to see them and speak about them and make these videos. Even though I didn't have a mic back then, I didn't have anything, so most of the videos are quite
you just go with it, don't you?
You just go with it and you wing it, and that's what I did. I basically went up, got my mum to start recording me, and then I started uploading these videos, and all of a sudden it just went boom, and I was like, oh my god, I'm going to have to make more content. So I always kind of had that dream inside my head that I wanted to be someone similar to Ian Stewart on the TV, he did the BBC series. I always wanted to kind of do that, aside from engineering geology. I just didn't know how you got into actually doing it. And I never ever thought, see, at the beginning when I started doing the videos and making the content, I never thought that it would lead to me actually leaving my full-time job. until recently, obviously this year in August 20, what year are we in, 2024? I've left my full-time job to do not just this full-time, but to do the geology tours full-time, to do the science communication, to speak at events, to do the content creation, the social media. There's all sorts involved in it. I want to start delivering workshops and stuff here in Scotland, that introduces not just kids to rocks, but the general public and just everyone. And that's another thing I noticed with regards to the trips and stuff away that I offer. A lot of the tour companies in Scotland concentrate on the history of just in the last few hundred years or 500 years. They never ever really go into the detail about the geological history. So I wanted to offer something different. And I do know and realise that there is societies out there, for instance, you have the Glasgow Geological Society and the Edinburgh Geological Society, and they do offer trips, excursions every summer, during the year, but it's nothing as big as what I offer. I do offer smaller trips as well, but I offer bigger trips too. Yep. And because I've got the platform for it as well, I've noticed that they've been quite popular, and people that have never thought about geology before are coming on my trips, and they also want to meet me, so they're just like, oh my god, I love you, Scottish geologist. I get stopped in the street now,
amazing.
Whenever I'm walking about Glasgow usually, or Edinburgh, there's always someone that recognises me and says, you're that lassie that makes videos about rocks, and I'm like, yeah, that's me.
Yeah, they might not necessarily remember your name or even your handle, but they know who you are.
Yeah, they still do. They're like, you're Scottish geologist, aren't you? And it's a good thing as well, the name. When I first set it up, I was like, well, I'm Scottish and I'm a geologist, so I'm just going to go with Scottish geologist and see, I didn't think it was going to grow as it did. I think in the first few months from April 2023, I had 300 followers, and then by the end of June I had 100,000, and that was just on Instagram alone. And I was like, oh my god, I couldn't keep track of it. There was so many messages coming through, so many notifications. I don't have the notifications switched on anymore because I get very overwhelmed when I get a lot of things come through to me, and I have an automatic message set up now because I can't respond to everyone. If I was to, it would mean that I wouldn't be able to do anything else during that day, do any editing or do it. And I don't edit much. When you look at my content, it's just dead straightforward. It's just the camera set up and then me, blah, blah, blah.
But even still, there's still time to do get that final product and a bit of processing and even just, captions.
Oh my god. My captions have been messing up recently. I don't know what's wrong with Instagram. But anytime I try edit the captions, it changes it back to what it thinks I've said. And I'm like, well, this isn't good with a Scottish accent.
And especially when you're just speaking geological terms, which are not in an everyday dictionary.
Oh, no, I know. It keeps thinking that siltstone is silk and then stone, two separate words. And I'm like, no. And then anytime I say the word Caledonian orogeny, it doesn't think I'm saying that. And I'm just like, yeah, this is a bit... I need to change it all, but sometimes it doesn't pick up and change it all. So I don't really spend a lot of time I do sometimes, it just depends, and I've tried to add in more little wee screen clips and stuff when it comes to the content making, but at first I was just uploading the videos and they were doing really well, and I was like, wow, people really like rocks, but they also like the way that I talk about rocks. And it is all, when people ask me about how would you get into this or how would you do this, I'll always say, well, this works for me, but I'll always say be yourself. There's no point in pretending to be anyone else. Those first few seconds of your video are the most important. They will, draw in people, and that's going to determine if someone's going to swipe past your content or not. Especially as well, if you start your video in a way that that just kind of pulls people in. And I think I've changed mine throughout the years. I used to always start them being like, all right, what's happening? And then it started changing slowly into, do you want to know what that mountain is? Or do you want to know what this is made of? Or do you want to know what that rock is?
It's engaging, it's capturing, you've hooked someone in.
Yeah, so I kind of say that, and I just wing it most of the time. But I'll always try and beforehand, because there's things, I don't know everything. No one knows everything, right? And there's things that I've actually relearned from university, from doing this. So, because I went to university 10 years ago, or 9 years ago.
Yeah, but we lose a lot of that information, don't we? All the things
how does this form again?
It's okay, I need to make a video on this quick check on
Yeah.
Wikipedia. Yeah, I've got that. Maybe not
Like,
Wikipedia.
what's this again? How does that form? Like, I'm having to Google for, or I have to like make sure that I'm like looking into. Like, I like using the BGS and stuff like that quite a lot, like, because you can double check like the age of these things, and you know, because sometimes. And I have said things that are a little bit off or a bit wrong, but like most of the time, I'll always admit and I'll always correct myself and I'll just go, oh, and see if someone asks me a question as well on my tours that I don't know the answer to it, I'm quite honest and I'll say, I'm not going to lie, I don't know how to answer that right now, but what I'll do is I'll look into it and I'll get back to you, and see if you email me, I'll see and I'll look into it and stuff for you. So, you know, it's not about knowing everything. You don't have to be a complete expert in your field or whatever to be able to make content about it and stuff as well, because I think people get caught up in that as well, and they're like, oh, I don't know everything. I'm like, you don't have to know everything, you know?
But you're the middle person. You're meant to be the communicator. I think that's something that a lot of people forget about science communication, is we're not beacons of knowledge. Our job is communicators, not like science oracles that know, just like have this.
Yeah. Well, think about the TV presenters as well. Yeah. They're all given their information. I mean, they'll know stuff, like, and they will, like, they'll be able to wing on that as well. But they will be fed and given information, and they'll do their research as well, and then they'll present it on the TV, like, and stuff, like, you know. So,
and then I think the difference and the extra spark that comes in from, say, doing content online, but also like you do for tours, is that ability to take questions or knowledge and to make it applicable, just like you said at the beginning, immediately comparing modern day volcanic spots to somewhere you might be going to in Scotland, because the reality is a volcano hasn't erupted in Scotland for 60 million years.
Yeah.
And those are the youngest rocks in Scotland.
Yeah, like there's so much, like, in Scotland, it's absolutely mad. Like, and it is, you're completely right. See, when you do compare that to something like that's happened, like, or recently, like, now I always do that when I'm talking about, like, you know, when we were a little bit closer, obviously, to that divergent plate boundary, like, you know, and the opening of the Atlantic Ocean, blah, blah, blah. Like, when I start talking about that, I'll always relate it to what's happening in Iceland now. And then people just tend to go, oh yeah, so the volcanoes and the fissures that have opened up in Iceland, and now that's what was happening here. Like, and I'm like, yes. And this magma chamber here that makes up the Coolin Ridge, like, I mean, the Coolin Mountains on the Isle of Skye, that was a few kilometres underground feeding magma to the surface. And they're just like, how did it get to the surface? And then you're having to explain all the other things, like, you know, uplift, erosion, weathering, and all that, and they're just like, wow. So it makes it understandable to people, and when you can do that and break down a very complicated subject like geology and make it understandable, people kind of, and tie it in with, as you say, things that are happening in today's world, like, you know, then people then think, oh yeah, okay, because they will know about, you know, like Iceland, or most of them, or Mount Vesuvius, and how Pompeii, I'll always say Pompeii, I'm like, you just think about it this way, see these deposits here, these are pyroclastic, right? This is the stuff that covered and killed all those people in Pompeii that comes down, you know, a hillside, and it's like a big cloud of ash, and it's just going as fast as it can. And they're just like, oh, I see now, and you can relate it to things that have happened in history recently, like, you know.
VolcaKnowledge is proud to be sponsored by John Wainwright & Co. through Wainwright Aggregates, and Brunton, Wyoming, making the world's most reliable compasses, professional transits, and navigational tools. Since founding in 1891, John Wainwright & Co. are one of Southwest England's largest independent quarrying companies. As well as extracting and processing premium basalt from their quarry in Somerset, they produce construction materials and operate a successful contracting division. Let's hear from some of their employees.
Hi, my name's Darren, I'm the quarry manager at John Wainwright's. So we supply various types of aggregate into the construction industry. That can go into for uses in asphalt plants, concrete plants, general road construction, civil engineering projects. So I sort of came into the industry as an 18-year-old. I've seen a job advertising in a local paper for a trainee lab technician within a quarry within the industry. And sort of 30 odd years later, I'm sort of the quarry manager at John Wainwright's. So as a young person coming into the industry, there are varying types of roles that you can come into. It's not just operational based. So what I enjoy about my role is the sort of the variety that it gets. My day can be planned in the morning, but that can go sort of out the window within the first hour or so. Some of the misconceptions about the quarry is that sometimes it's just a big hole in the ground, but from sort of day one, the restoration plan's in place. So these quarries, they become natural habitats, they become nature reserves, they become reservoirs, so for the future public to enjoy in the future.
And as bad as maybe some of those geodisaster movies you were talking about before are, it's still popular media and people remember things. So even one like Dante's Peak, which is actually probably quite well agreed upon by volcanologists as one of the better volcanic communication movies. Like, it shows a good pyroclastic flow. It shows, leading up precursory activity of a small eruption, some earthquakes, and it actually depicts the process quite well. But people have seen these movies, and so you can, even if they've, say, not been to Mount Etna, Mount Vesuvius, they go, oh, I have actually seen that movie. So it's that ability to find what individual people's experiences and paths and backgrounds are, and to tie it in. And it's a really tricky skill, not just from volcanics, but every type of landscape that forms geology. I think one of the blessings and a curse from us, say, doing a geology and earth science degree, is you will never look at a landscape the same again, because you see a ridge, you see a valley, you see layering, and you do a quick assessment and you kind of go, yeah, I think I roughly know how this formed.
Like, I wonder how that formed, But there's things nowadays that I'll look at, and I'm looking at them for a while, and I'm like, how the
I
don't even know how that formed. And then it's like the rock. This is something that's came back to me recently. I mean, I loved rock identification when I was at uni. But you're at uni, you've not got, you learn it kind of on the go as well throughout your career too. So I learned quite a lot when I was a junior engineer and the engineering geology sector, like learning how to identify all the different metamorphic rocks and that. And there's so much like information that you're given in uni that it kind of goes in and out. But recently I've realised and noticed like my rock identification skills, just doing what I'm doing and doing the tours and stuff, has increased dramatically. I'm like, oh, brilliant, but I couldn't. Like, there's always going to be rocks out there that I'm looking at them and I'm like, I don't know what that is. I'm just going to, I'm going to ask someone else on that. There was this, like, metamorphosed conglomerate, right? And I've never seen a metamorphosed conglomerate before, and it was a piece of core, and I'm looking at it, and I remember, like, logging it, trying to log it, and I'm like, what is this? Because it just looked it could, like, be classified as one of those nice, like, like high-grade metamorphic, but then, like, you can see it was part of the Dalradian supergroup, and the Dalradian, has, like, turbidite, and, like, it has, like, a mixture of, like, all sorts of, like, deep marine, like, originally sedimentary rocks and stuff, and just seeing it, and, like, and trying to figure out what happened to this rock, I was like, what the, like, what's going on?
Again, there's a blessing and a curse of cores, because a lot of the time we're doing geology on the surface where things are eroded, cruddy, they're covered in lichen, they're covered in moss, they're weathered, and what they actually look like is not representative of what you see on the surface. So a core gives you a wonderful ability to see the nice, clean rock. The only problem is they could be altered by geothermally, by hydrothermal fluids, by heats that surround, but also you're only seeing a very small amount, because in geology, we rely on the big
outcrops,
rely on the big picture, so we can see folds and faults and layers and the ways things interact with each other, but a core is actually a very small part of that.
Definitely, I agree. But it's some of the freshest rocks I've ever seen in my life were cores, and I was like, wow, this looks so different to like what it would look like on the surface as like an outcrop, because you're right, it has so much stuff growing on it, unless you're down by the beach or in a river, like, where you get the fresh stuff, like well, depends on where you are, but honestly, some of those rocks I got to see.
I'll say to people, depending on there's pebbles and rocks can be carried a long way onto a beach from all sorts of places, but a beach is sometimes one of the best places to get an idea of what the local geology actually looks like, at least within a few miles, not maybe hundreds of miles away. So I'm curious to know, for your geology tours, the people who come on them, are they geology backgrounds? You say you kind of like, you're managing to get people on who have never really expressed an interest, but how are they hearing? Is it word of mouth? Is it through social media?
It is
Are you
mainly
in
through
other
socials,
places?
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Like, so I promote them on social media, but I've noticed anytime I do promote them, like, social media limits the number of people. So when you promote a business on social media, it's strange. Like, it limits the number of people that see them. Like, that see, like, your story, that, like, because my story views are mad. Like, sometimes it can only be, even though I've got, like, on Instagram 285,000 people that follow me, sometimes it's like between 5 and 10,000 a day, and then other times it's like 60,000 a day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is ridiculous. So, like, it depends on what you're posting about and your story, and obviously Instagram has its own algorithm. And I've noticed when I just post things that just promote the tours, it doesn't get as much, like, and the same on Facebook as well and stuff. Like, and I just think it's the way that those platforms work, because it's like, oh well, you're trying to promote your own business now. I'm not putting that out to people. But I basically, I use social media to promote it. I've got one website set up. My tour name is like different because I couldn't get Scottish Geologist Limited, because like the way that companies' house work, they don't let you use the word Scottish or British or English like in your company name. You have to have things in place before you can do that. So I was like, oh, I'm going to have to name it something else. So I just named it Scott Rock Walks - Geology Tours Limited, because I thought, well, it can have geology tours in it, so that when people search for, if they're searching for geology tours, it can come up. But then as well, I'll just call it Scott for short instead of Scottish, and then rock walks. But yeah, I promote them on social media, and it's always a mixture of people. I get one every now and then. I get a geologist or someone that's in the engineering in the civil engineering or construction industry, or someone that's like a geography. I've had quite a few geography teachers, but most of the time it's people who have never ever heard of geology before in their lives. And it's funny because when I then ask them things like, oh well, do you know about that there's geological societies? They know nothing about it, and they know nothing about the British Geological Survey either, the BGS. And when I show them the BGS viewer and that, they're just like, wow, and stuff, and it's sad, because it just kind of shows you like that even all these other all these other things that we have in place and stuff, they're not like reaching the people like that they may want to reach. And I'm not saying anything against that either, like, because I want to help as much as I can. Like, I'm a member, like, ordinary member of like the Geological Society of Glasgow, and I do want to push like for promotion for them. But when I go to their events, it's always full of like older like men, like older, like the older generation that are all in academia and are all like
past engineering, geologist, geotechnical, mining.
And I'm just like, you need to approach it, and that's why I started doing what I do as well. So I get quite a mixture. I get kids sometimes coming along. I get like adults, like older, like people as well, like not old, but I get a mixture of people from different backgrounds, and I love learning what people do as well, and seeing what they, how they got into like what I'm offering. And it is all just through my social media. They would never ever have thought about rocks before, and until they heard of me. And it's mad because you look at the tours and how I've came along with them, and even just the ones that I'm doing now, because I offer afternoon tours every Sunday. Well, not every Sunday, but most Sundays, and I've been continuing to do them through the winter period, because a lot of tour companies cut off during the winter and they don't offer anything really. But I thought, well, what stopped me from taking a group of people out on walks? Yes, I can't do it in the evenings, so I can do it in the afternoon, but I can do it in the afternoon instead because it's light still.
You can do something local. So
yeah, something local, a 2-hour walk somewhere, an educational outdoor walk where you can come along, meet myself, learn something about your local area or about an area that you want to know more about in Scotland. And there's so many places you can take people. I'm so excited about next year, because I'm not going to stop doing it. Like, even though I've got a wee baby on the way and stuff like that, I've got quite a lot of like support in that, like from my family, from my friends, my network and stuff. And I'll probably even take the baby with me on some of these walks. But I just want to offer something that's a little bit different, that educates people and teaches them about the environment, about the landscapes, about like how rocks form, and you're going to places. Scotland's so good for it. Honestly, you can travel across 500 miles in Scotland and the geology changes. So, you've been to Scotland yourself, and there's so much geological history, and like, oh, I love it. Like, I just love taking people out and talking to them about rocks, and people see that as well, and they're like, oh, I've got repeat customers as people come back on my trips because they, they want to learn more about other areas. So I'm dead excited about next year. I'm currently planning all of my afternoon and evening tours for next year, And I've got some big trips as well next year, like to some of the nice areas of Scotland. There's one in the Northwest Highlands in May. And for a weekend, there's one on the Isle of Mull, where we're going to look at quite a lot of volcanic rocks, but we'll also go to Iona and we'll go to Staffa, which is, oh my God, one of my favourite places to go to.
I need you to take me to Staffa. That's
Yes.
that needs to get
Have you
in the
never been
diary.
before?
I've never been to Staffa.
Oh.
So, yeah, take us through Staffa for people who aren't familiar.
Oh, the Isle of Staffa, like, oh my goodness me. It's like, see, the basaltic columns there are so beautiful and stuff. Like, it's amazing. Wait, did you say Staffa or Staffin?
Staffa, yeah.
Staffin, like, as in, like...
Oh, no, yeah.
Staffin or
No.
Staffa?
So, yeah, Staffa with the basaltic
columns.
Like
but I was like, wait a minute, that was my baby brain.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, oh my goodness, they're so beautiful. Like, and then you've got Fingal's Cave inside it, and like basically, like back in the day, like 60 odd million years ago, like obviously you had the opening of the Atlantic Ocean, like I mean, we were kind of like situated at that point, like where there was a lot of volcanism going on. I mean, you'll know yourself, and because that volcanism was like going on, it affected like the west coast of Scotland, and that's why you have all the volcanic islands, like the Isle of Mull, the Isle of Skye, like volcanic centres that make up the middle of those islands. But the Isle of Staffa is a small, tiny little island off of the Isle of Mull, just on the west coast. Like, I don't know why I get mixed up with I always have to go never eat shredded wheat. I don't know if that's like you, but that's how I remember.
I think that's still how a lot of people still remember it.
I'm like, never eat shredded wheat, and I don't know why I always get mixed up with them. But yeah, the west coast is Mull, like just off of it, and you get a wee boat to it, and it's absolutely stunning. It's got these beautiful basaltic columns. Like there's 3 layers. Like the bottom layer is just the basaltic lava flow, and then there's like these basaltic columns like that formed, and then there's like a like ash, like kind of like another like flow on top, but it's a combination of ash and stuff, and it's just the different textures of these rocks, even though they're exactly the same composition, like it just makes it for me. And then you've got Fingal's Cave that you can kind of go into and sail into and walk a little bit into as well with the columns, and oh my goodness. It's so pretty.
There's so much. I love that you just got lost for a moment. Then you were
I know,
there.
I'm sorry.
But there's a reason. Much. There's a reason why so many universities and schools in the UK do their trips and do their field trips and their field mapping projects up in Scotland. I did my degree down in the south of England, and I'd say probably 75% of our geology trips, including everybody's like 3rd year mapping project, it was all in Scotland because of the variety that we have on our doorstep.
Well, that's it. Yeah, there's so much in Scotland that you can come and see. It's mental, and we are like known as the home birthplace for geology. As people forget that, and I feel like that's just been forgotten like over the last like God knows how many years. And that's why I now offer what I do, like not just the content creation, but the tours as well, where it's taking people just through a little bit of a different perspective, where they get to learn about the geology of certain areas across the Scottish Highlands as well. It's mad to think that people come here to and did come here back in the past to study what's going on in the Himalayas today, or what's going on in the Alps today, like, because obviously we've had so much go on, like with regards to different plate boundaries and different faults that have formed in different. Honestly, you can go into everything. I'm going to end up like geology of Scotland. We don't have time.
If you want it, then come along to one of your tours or all of your tours. Yeah, but you've got rocks that go back as far as what, 3 billion years?
3 billion years or
3
something
billion
like
years
that.
From the Lewisian ice all the way through to say the tertiary 60 million year old volcanics.
Yeah.
So there is absolutely everything.
Yeah.
So I would highly encourage anybody listening. We'll put the details in.
Definitely. I mean, we don't have much chalk, though. I know you guys have chalk down south, but like, I don't know what happened during the Cretaceous period in Scotland. I've never looked at it.
The thing is, we've got like little pockets of, particular for volcanic rocks, it's a little more scattered. So the Lake District, for example, is a really good spot for similar kind of volcanics. But further down south, there's very, very small little pockets here and there, usually in like Cornwall kind of area.
Cornwall, the granites and stuff.
Yeah,
I think like the Lake District, and I went to that Honister slate mine, and I was looking at it, and I'm like, I've never seen slate like this before. I usually just refer to slate as, like a metamorphosed mudstone. So seeing like the ash, like and it all being like cleaved and like compacted and metamorphosed into this like this slate, I was like, wow, this is so beautiful and pretty and nice, and I'd never seen anything like that before, you know.
Yes. So even
It's mental.
outside of Scotland, there's stuff to learn. But Scotland's a very good place to kickstart. But what was wonderful to hear then is that you've got people from all backgrounds coming onto your tours, and it shows that people are also, even if they're not seeing it directly through you, other people are sharing it, and they're sharing it to people they know, and they're recommending it for.
Oh yeah, definitely that as well. Yeah.
And you're getting return customers, and like you say, there's been this almost kind of disconnect between the world of, say, like geography and like school curricula and teaching versus just getting people out there and learning geology. And I want to hear your take on two little words, which we'll see if it sparks. Urban geology. What can people learn about walking around their own city?
Oh my goodness, I love doing it.
Yeah,
like, I just love going about and looking at the different, like, see the different buildings, like the different rocks that make up the different buildings, especially if you're walking around Glasgow or Edinburgh. But wherever I go, I'll look at the rocks, like, nowadays, like, and it's madness. And most of them I know how to recognise, like, up in Scotland. Like, and it's the same with the slabs too. I'll look at the slabs and I'm walking, and I'm like, this is a Caithness flagstone. There might be some fossilised fish in this from back during the Devonian period. And people look at me like, what? And I'm like, well, you never know, right?
Yeah. Who's that woman stood around the square looking at the floor?
Yeah, like honestly, or I'm touching rocks and it's like a granite. I'm like, do you know what this is? This is a magma chamber. This formed like a few kilometres into the crust, like back. I don't know where it's from. Probably Aberdeen, 420 million year old rock. Like, it's all around us and people don't realise it. That's the thing about geology. It's not just like out in the scenic areas of Scotland or England or across the world. It's not just volcanoes that are erupting nowadays. It's like everywhere. Like, it's the building blocks that make up our earth, even. And when I try to explain that as well to people about how important it is to continue to promote geology and have geologists, like, and promote people going to study a degree in geology, we need geologists for the future when it comes to everything else, like, look at everything that we need naturally, like, that we need to resource and stuff. And I know that there's a lot of controversy about it. But even the energy transition as well, we need them.
Building infrastructure, motorways, highways, and everything has a background of geology somewhere along the line if we want to build and develop and make things, even down to smart technology. This is something I talk to people a lot about, is say, how many metals do you think actually go into smart technology and smartphones? Where do those metals come from? Most of them are
in the ground.
Yeah, they're in the ground. They're heavy elements.
Geologists need to find them.
They're rare earth minerals, like people, and we need to find these. So there's but that's a whole other topic.
Oh yeah, I know, definitely. But I just love that. I love looking at each rock and there's a story, to tell from each rock, and I like telling that story. So,
do you do an urban geology tour, or have you done?
No, but it's on the list for next year. I'm going to do one in Glasgow and I'm going to do one in Edinburgh.
Amazing.
I just need to, I'm familiar more with Glasgow, but I think like Edinburgh, I need to just kind of scope it out, and this is what I tend to do. There's obviously a lot of information on Wikipedia and online and stuff, and there is excursion guides to a certain extent, but they're very complicated when it comes to like the general public, like going into detail and reading about them and that. And there is other things online too, and it's good to like when I do look at areas that I can go on tours and stuff, I'll look into the geology background and I'll just scope it out. Like, for instance, yesterday I went on a wee trip to Queensferry. Never been before, like, in my life, and I just walked along the coastline, and there was some notes I found online already about talking about the different formations, but it came back out in the 90s. So I'm like reading this thing from the 90s. I'm then like looking at the rocks that I'm seeing, and then I'm trying to like research just to see if there's anything that's changed over the last like, I don't know how many, like, since the 90s, since the last 25 years or so. Like, oh my god, 24 years ago since the 90s. That's scary. So yeah, like I just like I do that. Like, I mean, I've been doing that recently, and I will spend 1 or 2 days a week going out recording content somewhere and then coming home, and then my other days, like, I've got meetings set up, or like I've got like I have to prepare talks or whatever, like, or I have to like, because I've done a few speaking events and stuff, just talking about how, like, talking about Scottish geology, or talking about how I built my brand, or talking about like other things. I've been approached by publishers as well. Like, I forgot, I'm not allowed to talk about it too much because I'm still in. And there is, like, I mean, yes, there's not a lot out there that's recent that speaks about geology. I know Geology Scotland, but it's just been released by the Geological Society, right? But that's like made for academia. That's made for it's very complicated, you know.
Yeah.
But I'd love to write books on the geology of Scotland, or you know, here's like a guidebook to certain areas that you can go to, like, and base it on some of my trips. Or I'd like to write a basic book about geology and how to identify rocks, like, as well. So there is things that I'm doing. Not just the content creation, there's things that I'm trying to fit in and do.
There's a whole world that it opens up for you.
I'm just like, oh my god.
So before we wrap up...
do you want to go do a PhD? And I'm like, I don't think I'll have time to do a PhD right now.
But before we wrap up, there's one of them I want to hit. Yeah. And recently, earlier this year, you had the opportunity to be a part of the BBC Creator Lab. Take us through that.
Oh, it was amazing. I never ever thought I'd have the opportunity, and it was really funny because to get into it, they told you that you had to have more than, 50,000 followers. So when you applied for it, and it was more just nature, I came across it by accident, and I was like, I wonder if I could do this. And it just says nature content creators, and I was like, well, technically geology's nature. And it was great, such a good experience. They came back to me and they says, yeah, we'd love to have you come down. It was held in Cardiff, so I flew down, I got a train to Cardiff, and we were in the main BBC buildings for 2 days, where we got taken through all of this media training. We got to make content in front of a green screen, and obviously me having my rocks. I was like, wow. We got to pitch in front of commissioners for a nature show called Springwatch to appear on that. But it's hard when you're a geologist, you're trying to tie that in with nature. I was just like, yeah, you can totally tie it in with, talking about the rocks that the birds are sitting on and stuff. But it is like that you were up against like quite a lot of wildlife content creators.
Yeah.
Like there was a mixture of people there. But it was such a good experience.
I love the idea of just the camera slowly panning away from the rare bird down to the rock.
It's like, and these rocks formed 60 million years ago. And I'd love to do, honestly, I would love to be on the TV and do things like, but it's hard to get into TV. There's not a lot of money in it. It's, maybe one day, you never know. I'd love to have my own wee show and like, just go about Scotland or go about England, just go about places and just tell people, do you want to know what these rocks are, But
for anyone who's listening and is thinking of an idea, this is where you need to go.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So to wrap things up today, I'd love to hear something about. So you talked about, say, a favorite volcanic spot at the beginning, when you visited Iceland. Is there a particular memory? Volcanic related? Maybe it's related to that, or if it's something else.
It is. It's related to the Iceland trip, and it was the first time I ever seen basaltic lava come out the ground. I've never seen anything like this before in my life. And we flew over basically a few days after the eruption started, but the pathway was shut, so we couldn't hike it. And we went to go see if we could hike it, and they said that no, it's still shut because the gases are coming south, and those gases will end up like they're poisonous, blah blah blah. So we're not the path's blocked off. But instead, what we did is we got on a helicopter and flew over the erupting volcano, and I cried.
Yeah,
I've never seen anything like it as beautiful. Even recently, I went over the Grand Canyon. It didn't have the same effect. But that's just because that's all sedimentary rocks, right? I mean, it was lovely, the Grand Canyon, and I was just going down, and I'm like, I thought I'd cry, but.
You're gonna get an angry note from the Grand Canyon National Park.
So. The volcano, that volcano, seeing it erupt was amazing. Like absolutely, oh my goodness, out of this world. I've never seen anything like it in my life.
Yeah, and it allows you to take that experience and also bring it back to other people as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So much for joining us today, Louisa. It's been really, really interesting to hear about your take and all the things that you've been able to do from, say, background in engineering geology to now what you're doing today. So really, really thank you so much for joining us and sharing all of that. And we'll put all of the links in so people can also, if they don't already follow you, they can follow you and maybe even join you on one of your tours.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great. I love just talking about rocks in general anyway, but there's so much you can talk about and you can't get it all in.
Exactly.
You're like, oh my God.
Well, thank you, Louisa. Yeah. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in for this episode of VolcaKnowledge. Remember, you can catch all of our previous episodes either through our website, www.volcaKnowledge.com, or you can follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you stream your favourite podcasts. You can also watch all of our episodes on our YouTube channel, VolcaKnowledge, and don't forget to sign up to our social media channels at VolcaKnowledge through Instagram and Blue Sky. Please leave us any feedback and comments and topics maybe you want to see on a future episode. Thank you for joining and see you next time.